In this movie, we take a look at how to use our positioning when it comes to our sandbox. Now here, I already have the sandbox open from where we were working with our float-based designs. So I need to go ahead and clear out some of those styles. Now, in fact, I'm just going to get rid of the style information inside of here because we're going to reuse some of our structures. So in addition to the style changes, let's go ahead and add in another element that we'll be working with here. It will be the header. And then I'll go ahead and jump down here. I'm going to change my container here to be my header. And then close that container right after that paragraph. So this is going to be my example with my header. Let me go ahead and scroll all the way down to the bottom here and get rid of the closing div that was previously there for our container. And because we no longer have our container, we no longer need our rule for the container. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that as well. So I'll go ahead and save that. And whenever I jump back in here, we should see everything revert back to the normal flow. So now I want to jump in here and actually use some of our positioning. So first of all, I'm going to position column 1. And I'll do that by setting the position to the absolute value and then specifying that I want it to be 100 pixels from the top of the screen. And I'll also specify that I want it to be 10 pixels away from the left-hand side of the screen. I also want to specify a width, so I'll set my width here using my absolute measurement system, and I will set up my height as well. So go ahead and save that and jump back over here and refresh, and we'll see that it's taken out of the flow of our standard HTML document and placed in position to its parent element. So the parent element in this case is the browser window, so it's 100 pixels from the top and 10 pixels from the left. Now if you look at that, you might see that 10 pixels and you might say, that's a whole lot more than 10 pixels. Well, if you want to see all of our padding that's set up for this and maybe the margins on some of our containing elements, you can just add in a border really quickly just to see what's going on behind the scenes. And whenever you do that, you'll see all the extra stuff that goes with that. So that's everything that's inside of our selected item. So one of the things that's happening here is that our content is over to the left-hand side regardless of the rest of the other content. So here we have our content being overlapped. Typically, the way that our absolute positioning works is if we use it on one element, we have to use it on a lot of our different elements to take into consideration the fact that this element is doing what it's doing. I'm going to go back into my HTML here, and I'm going to add in another rule here for our second column, and it's actually going to be using a lot of the same options here. However, the properties will be a little bit different. We are going to be using absolute positioning. Our top is going to be the same, but the left position here is going to be 170, and then the width is going to be 500. Now I also want to go ahead and adjust where this column 2 ends, because I want it to contain everything else. So go ahead and move that closing div all the way to the bottom. I'll save and come back here and I will refresh. So what we see happen is our content is constrained to 500 pixels wide. I did not set a height on this because we want it to expand to fit the content, but I included enough space here with my positioning so that our sidebar over to the left has enough space. So I set the top on the second column to match the top of the first column, and then I set the left to give that first column enough breathing space, because that first column was set up so that it was 10 pixels from the left, and I wanted to give it 10 pixels on the right for more or less a margin, and the width was 150, so that's why I set the left to 170 to give it enough breathing space. And then I just set that width